Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is G. We're going to talk about February's Leo full moon. I'm going to throw the chart up here and we're going to draw some lines. We're going to mark it up and we're going to take a look, see at what else is happening with a fixed full moon, a fiery fixed full moon in Leo. All right, so first things first, the date, right? Let's go to the top left-hand corner of the chart. If you've seen any of the videos out, you already know we've got the full moon in Leo, and it's on the 5th of February, right? So what we're going to do is look for the Leo symbol. And if you follow me down this way. Yep, we're going over here, and I'm going to draw an arrow to it. That's the sign of Leo. Now look for the moon. You see the moon right there? The moon is right next to it, right? And so we say that that's a moon in Leo. You see 16 degrees and 40 minutes. And there's the little Leo sign, right? So if you've got your chart, because I get these questions all the time from people who have their own charts. So for those of you out there who, are thinking or considering about getting your chart, or just curious, even for people who already have their own charts, there still can be a lot of confusion. Okay, so don't get down on yourself, right? And just keep in mind too that for the charts I draw up, you see this chart's loaded, and maybe in your mind you don't know that this chart's loaded, but it is. There's a lot of extra things in this chart because that's just how I look at my basic charts. Okay, I'm kind of crazy like that, right? But we're not going to look at all that stuff, so don't worry about it. You're just following the arrows, all right? You're just following where my arrows go, okay? So the full moon, 1640 degree, all right? And then the sign of Leo. And what makes a full moon? What makes a full moon? Well, it's when the sun is at the opposite of the moon, right? So if we know that the moon is at 1640, and if we know what the opposite sign of Leo is, all right? And I'm going to draw a line so we can see that opposite sign. I'm going to start here, see where I'm at over here, and I'm just going to go ahead and try draw a line. Forgive me because we're doing this, electronically, that's a little funny sometimes. So I'll start a fresh line because it's already given me stress. So I'm going to draw my line and look at that. Straight line. I cheated, but that's okay. And look, it's the sun. See that circle with a dot in the middle? That's the sun, and it's at 1640, and that's how you get a full moon. Okay? When you have the sun and the moon exactly opposite of each other, and we call that an opposition, right? When the two luminaries in the sky are opposite, you have a full moon. Okay. The sun in general is someone who's of authority, someone who's in charge. Okay. Aquarius energy is group energy, right? It's also science, right? We think of digital, we think of the internet big time, we think of all the tech stocks. That's FANG, right? And I'm only mentioning tech stocks because we've been hearing about a lot of layoffs in the tech industry, right, for January. So here we are in February, though, but I'm recording this in January. Of course, you see the Christmas tree is still up. And so Leo energy, because we got to know both, right? It's a full moon, and the full moon encompasses both the sun and the moon. So we got to know what both of those signs mean, right? And so Aquarius energy, when I was saying tech stock, that's Aquarius, right? It's the age, it's the digital age, absolutely. Social media on a grand scale, groups, online groups, right? It is astrology, right? It is also advancements for humanity. So it's the inventions, any sort of an invention that helps humanity advance. Think about that, folks. So we first relate it to like the Wright brothers and the airplane, because this is an air sign. Yeah. Really interesting considering we've had a lot of air things happening. So Leo energy down here, we're going across again. Leo, if you haven't seen your rising sign videos, go watch them. I talk about the Leo full moon. I talk about all this extensively for you. And so the keywords, we're just going to go over a few short ones: fun, children, joy, creativity, whatever you create, taking a risk with my body, having fun with my body, being very physically active. Leo can also be somebody in charge because why? Does anybody know? because the sun up in the sky rules the sign of Leo. So this new moon, this full moon is really a fascinating, powerful full moon of endings, but also beginnings. This is the way I see this, because it's the sun over here, because it's the sun in Aquarius. And then we also have the sun down here because the sun rules the sign of Leo. And anytime you have the sun and the moon together, that's what makes a new moon. Yeah. So these are endings that are going to create new beginnings. Okay. Now, we're going to see what else is going on in this chart. That's why we're drawing this chart up for all of us to look at. And normally the first thing I look at are the squares. A square is going to be 90 degrees away, or you could say 4 houses away, however you want to do it, right? So if, just as an example in this chart, house number 3, okay, just as an example, we're going to count the sign that we're in, Leo. So that's number 1. And then we go to Virgo, number 2. Then we go to Libra, that's number 3. And then we go to Scorpio. That would be 4 signs away. And we're looking for 16 degrees. And look at that. 16 should be right there. There's nothing at 16. You see that? Now let's do the same for Taurus energy, 4 signs away, starting at the sign we're in. Leo's number 1. Cancer's number 2. Gemini's number 3. Hold on, guys. My fingers ran out of space. Number 3. And then Taurus is number 4. And look what we have at the same degrees, roughly the same degrees, 16, 14, 15, 16, 17 degrees are what's going to tightly square this full moon. We have Uranus. You see that? Uranus squares it. So I'm changing colors real quick here. Yeah, got to go to red. Okay. So we got Uranus squaring the full moon because it's at 15 degrees. There's the degree mark. All right. You guys clearly see that, right? So when I draw the line of the square, there we go. So see, this is a square. Taurus squares Leo. Yeah. Now, Aquarius energy is also fixed. Yeah, it's fixed air. Yes, it's fixed air. So this tells us, this means if we know that we have a square between Uranus and Leo, then we also know that we have a square between Uranus and the sun. This is authority figures, no matter how you look at this. This is a difficult T-square, okay? A difficult T-square because it's 16, 17 degrees of Aquarius, 16, 17 degrees of Leo, and 14, 15, 16, 17 degrees of Taurus. And again, that's the orb you're to look for in your own chart. If you got your chart at home, 14, 15, 16, 17, even 18 degrees technically, because the full moon is actually at a 17 degree when I round up. When I round up from 1640, it's really 17 degrees. And so we use a 2-degree orb, okay? 2-degree orb. That's why I say 14, 15, 16, 17. But yeah, 14 is probably a stretch, huh? Yeah. But I don't think so. Why? Because Uranus is at 1501. So Uranus is technically squaring. So if you have Taurus, if you have planets in Taurus or house cusp line at 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, you are squaring this full moon. And just so we are all clear, a full moon is stress and tension, right? Now, it doesn't have to be horrible. I mean, it's definitely not going to be easy, right? Because it's a powerful T-square. It's a fixed T-square. Fixed means I don't want to budge. So you have someone who is an authority figure over here in the sign of Aquarius. That's the black. Someone who is an authority figure here. Someone who's in charge in some way. This is masculine energy. Okay? Masculine. Can be females, but it's somebody who's in charge. Someone who exudes strong masculine energy, right? Somehow they are in charge. Also down here at Leo, masculine energy. Leo energy is masculine because it's the sun. The sun it's fiery, it's masculine, okay? However, that's Leo energy. The moon is feminine energy. So that's complicated then, right? It's masculine and feminine energy, which gives us the ability to create. This is how I've talked about this. You guys, at the very beginning of this video, that's what I talked about. The power of creating is when we have the sun and the moon together. So down in the Leo energy, we have a combo of masculine and feminine energy. Well, what's at the other end of this T-square? Taurus. And what's Taurus's energy? Well, first of all, we got Uranus because that's the planet that's squaring, and that is definitely masculine energy. But it is in Taurus. And Taurus is Venus. Taurus is Venus. Venus is feminine. All right. This is feminine energy. So it's masculine planet, Uranus, in Taurus, feminine. So that tells us that over here in Aquarius, it's masculine, masculine, because Aquarius is masculine and so is the sun. It's fixed air, stubborn in the way we do things. This is how we're supposed to do them. But because it's in Aquarius, it's not necessarily this is how we're supposed to do it. It's Aquarian kind of says, let's do something different. Let's toss aside the routines. Let's create a new mold. Let's create a new form, a new system. Let's do a new way of thinking, something that hasn't done before. That is Aquarius in general. Okay. So is Uranus. It also says, but I want to do something different. But it's in a sign that is very grounded and stable. And stability comes from things being done the same way. And that's Taurus. Taurus is fixed. It's fixed in its values, fixed with its money, right? So this could be banking, right? And it's angling and squaring digital. It's angling and it's squaring authority figures in Aquarius. Okay. So you see why this is so difficult, why this can be so frustrating, because we have authority figures at each angle. We have authorities down in Leo. We have the mother and the father down in Leo. We've got feminine energy. Venus is not considered the mother. Venus would kind of be considered the daughter down here in Taurus. And then we've got like authority figure over here in Uranus, the planet Uranus, right? And then when we go over to Aquarius energy, yeah, the sun being the authority and Aquarius being the authority. So this can be really complicated, really stressful, because it's about our values. And each sign, Aquarius is not willing to budge. Leo, not willing to budge. Okay. Taurus, not willing to budge. So what's going to happen? Something's got to give. Something's got to give. The answer to this difficult T-square, and that's what you're looking at. What's on the screen, folks? What do you see? This is a T-square. I'll reemphasize it with the black. You see that? You can't miss it, right? It's like a left-sided triangle. So what's the obvious way out? It might not seem obvious, but the recommendation normally is to go to the pinnacle of the T-square, which is right here, 15 degrees, which is Uranus, and go to the opposite of it. So let's take that and go for a ride. What's the opposite? The opposite would be 15 degrees of Scorpio. That is supposedly the answer and the way out of this T-square. Right, because what happens then is you create a powerful T-square on the opposite side. You create a T-square going like this. You see that? Doesn't look as pretty because it doesn't have the red there. But then you create a great cross. Okay, a great cross is formed. And with that great cross, it's not smooth, folks. I'm not even going to try to lie to you. It is not smooth. If you know anybody with great crosses, if you see how they function, their thinking, it's rigid. It's kind of like being in a car with a first-time driver. Seriously, where they're stepping on the gas and then they're laying off of it. They're stepping on the brake and then they're laying off it, right? It's like herky-jerky. It's like sudden movements, right? It's not smooth. And we know this because look at the points. There's 4 points on a square. There's 4 angles. See those 4 angles? That's what makes it rough. When we talk about just energy in general, this is a fixed great square that we're looking at. Right. And so it can feel difficult. It can feel rough. It can feel very uncomfortable. Just understanding that when I say go to Scorpio to try to create some sort of balance, again, it's not going to be smooth, but Scorpio is what makes the compromise, because what does Scorpio mean? Scorpio is our shared values. Our shared values. How can we find commonality? Where can we find common ground? What do you value and what do I value? What values do we have in common? That is Scorpio energy. And typically it's related to the past, right? Typically. And what makes this even more tricky is because the North nodes are going through and have been going through Scorpio, which is a release of our shared values. And that's why it's like, wait a minute, I don't know what I value anymore. That was from my, like what I used to value, I don't. So it's almost like we are definitely recreating our values, but it's like we're having to dig super deep to figure that out. It's almost like going back in time. It's almost like changing a timeline. We're going beyond our personality. Remember, Scorpio is a soul's energy. Yeah, soul's energy. So it's like we have to almost sit in silence. We have to like maybe not give an answer right away. And we have to be willing to say, I might have to think about this. I might have to go home and I might have to sleep on it. I might have to, we might need some time with this. And that's okay. Get the time, get all the time that you need. Talk to different people, but not to fight, find another angle to separate and divide, but to find a new perspective in which we can unite, in which we can hold hands. I'm not saying we're going to sing kumbaya together, but where we can at least honor, I value life. I value your life. I value my way of life. Therefore, my way of life, I would want that for everybody. There's got to be some common ground that we can find somehow, somewhere. And so Scorpio, when it's quiet and it gets out of its fear mode, because that's Scorpio, it's very powerful, but it's connected to Pluto. So remember, it's about purpose. It's purpose, right? It's our power and our purpose. And that is the higher octave. That is the higher way forward using your Scorpio energy. That is, okay, I know this isn't going to be smooth. I know it's not going to be simple. However, if I look out and if I have an altruistic method, I say, yeah, this is what I want, but I know that this isn't really what's best for everybody involved. What is best for everybody involved? How can I figure that? Like, what is that? What does that look like? Can we start having conversations about that? We're creating something new. And likely it's going to be based on some of our really old school values. And I mean soul's values. Okay. So we're talking evolutionary astrology here, right? We have to back up and we have to remember who we are at our core level as a human race. We have to remember, how did we get to where we got? Right? Off of whose blood, off of whose sweat, off of whose sacrifice. And we have to ask some of those deeper, penetrating questions to move forward. Because, folks, I'm going to say it again. I say it all the time, and I'm never going to stop saying it. Together, we're better. If you enjoyed this video, let me know. If you didn't, let me know. Whether it's a thumbs up, thumbs down, they all count. I appreciate your time. And if you made it this far, bless your soul. Thank you.